You are now listening to the Insight Fantasy Sports Podcast.
Welcome in and welcome all. We are back. It's the Insight NFL show, Tuesday, the 23rd of September, and week 3 is done and dusted. We were absolutely blessed with the final game of the slate today. Detroit Lions putting the sword to the Ravens 38-30. Very high scoring, which we love to see for fantasy. But before we get into that, Mav, week 3, I was mentioning last night to Secko, I was probably glad that you weren't on last night's show, just given how much you shellacked me in the Creators League. But then again, here you are. I think it was 40 points you ended up beating me on. Yeah, just, wow, yeah, 40 odd points, and that's underselling it. But how are you feeling after week 3? Now that that's all behind us.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. A bit of a mixed bag around the NFL world at the moment for fantasy. A lot of players out there that you wouldn't expect sort of balling out at the moment. And then there's some players that you probably did expect to ball out that hasn't been balling out. So, I guess this is the joy of the NFL season. There's a lot of ups and downs along the way. The tide does turn eventually, but when does it turn is always a question mark. Is it too late? Is it too early? You just never know. So it's always the tilt, we call it, for NFL fantasy is always it's a real thing. So just ride the wave, really.
Yeah, it's week in, week out, the tilt. It just doesn't stop. Just when you think you're doing well, but there's one more game to go, bang. Nah, not today, not this week. It's forever changing, and that's probably why we love it. We love the pain for the most part, but when we get it right, doesn't that feel good? Doesn't that feel good? But tonight, with week 3 in the books, we will be recapping that final game before we head into week 4, but we'll be covering our waiver wire for the week as we get locked in. We'll be covering a couple of injuries and then maybe a couple of questions too at the end. We'll see how we're running for time. But with that, we will jump into the injury updates. I will just quickly run our little graphic here. Here we go. So there we are. There's the injury update. And looking into week 4, we have already found out JJ McCarthy, quarterback for the Vikings, he has been ruled out for this one, potentially for more weeks, but we'll take it week by week at this state. Carson Wentz filled in for those guys. He didn't really need to do too much for the Vikings. Their defense just really carried that team for themselves. Just pulling up what he did before I throw it to you, Mav. He only threw the ball 20 times, but 173 yards, 2 touchdowns. I had a couple of carries for a handful of yards, but honestly, not too bad. A serviceable week if you were looking for an option with JJ McCarthy going down. With this news, Mav, how are you looking about the Minnesota Vikings offense and then also Carson Wentz to run it back in week 4?
Oh, you look better than JJ McCarthy's 7 out of 8 quarters he's played so far in football, hasn't he? I mean, it looked a bit more stable, and game script wise, they didn't really need to throw the ball, so it was just Jordan Mason just slamming it down their throat. So I don't know who they play next week. I don't really know top of my head. Who they play next
Pittsburgh.
Week. All right,
Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So it's actually not a bad matchup. So they might be forced to throw a little bit more. So look, yeah, I'm sort of in, sort of out. I'm in between. If you need a QB, then Carson Wentz, sure, but yeah, I don't mind it. I think it's okay. He'll probably be in mid-range to low-end QB2. That's okay.
And Mav, I will just correct myself because this is actually a Dublin game. It's 11:30 p.m. for us here. It's over on Sunday night. With it being an international game, does it really change anything for you on this one, or you just kind of take it as normal?
I think you just take it as normal. Probably not much to really consider. Services are probably a bit different. It's probably the only thing, but it's pretty stock standard, so it should be fine. It's 11:30 p.m. our time, though, when that game comes around. So, unfortunately, it is Sunday night, so it's always that one where you stay up and watch it, or you go to bed early and get up at 3 a.m. and watch the morning slate of games. So it's always a hard little sell. Or do you just stay up the whole way through and just try and get a couple of hours sleep along the way? It's always a hard one, but I think I think the morning slate game's a bit better than just the one off for me.
Yeah, they are. And I remember last year I stayed up for one 11:30 game, and it was one of the worst games that I could have watched. So I'm not too sure if I'll be doing it for this one. We'll have to wait and see. But moving on after JJ McCarthy, CD Lamb, Still waiting on an MRI to fully confirm it. There's been a bit of a mixed result. Jerry Jones, old Jerry, he was saying that it could potentially go on the IR, along with their right guard, Tyler Booker, who they have placed on the IR. So probably one to watch, but a lot of these sports med guys that I've been following, they're leaning towards week 6, week 7 return. So still going to miss the next 2 more than likely. How does this feel for you, Mav, with CeeDee Lamb? I know, of course, you have to hold. You can't really trade away, but is he potentially a trade for, if you started out 3-0, or how are you feeling?
Yeah, if you're 3-0, maybe. He's one of those guys, but he's still worth a shitload regardless. I mean, he is pretty much the offense, I suppose. Well, Javonte Williams had been balling out, but anyway. Yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it? I mean, Supercoach wise, he's a trade. Don't get me wrong. For traditional fantasy, obviously it's a hold. Do you trade? If you trade him, if you're the owner and you trade him, you're not going to get the return that you're looking for as well. So he's just probably more of a hold at this point in time, and just play the wave. Hopefully it's only 2-3 weeks, but I think every chance it could be longer. It looked pretty bad. His ankle's like 9 degrees. So they're saying high ankle sprains. So typically high ankle sprains are like 4 to 6 weeks. So if you can get out at a 2 to 3 weeker, who knows really? But it could, you always have doubts of recurrence of injury and not being right. He came back and didn't look good. So I fully expect him to probably miss minimum 3.
Fingers crossed for best case scenario, but definitely do not sell CeeDee Lamb on the cheap if you've got some Weasley managers sneaking in the DMs. I know I will be over the next couple of days, just trying to test my luck. But Mike Evans, MRI not confirmed yet. Reportedly, it's a low-grade hamstring strain, so 2 to 3 weeks. But with that being said, it could be an IR stint. He is older as well, but that'll probably come out over the next couple of days also on Mike Evans. But we will be touching on the Mike Evans injury with a couple of the waiver wire ads as we get deeper on. And the next few that we've got here in terms of injuries, Tyrone Tracy Jr., running back for the New York Giants, dislocated shoulder during that game. Best case, if he doesn't require surgery, is 3 weeks. If it is surgery, more than likely that will be his year done. With this one, Mav, I mean, terrible to see Tyrone Tracy go down, but I mean, Cam Scatterbo, God, he's going to be a beast.
Oh man, yeah, really, really, really good news for Cam Scatterbo owners. Really, he looked good with ball in hand on the weekend. He looked fantastic. Looked explosive. Actually, was involved in the passing down work in the passing game too, which I was really surprised about. So yeah, man, like 100%. I'd be going all in on Cam Scatterbo. He's almost a flex play at this point. Potentially, like depending on who you got in your flex, but man, I love the likes of Cam Scatterbo at the moment in squads. So Tyrone Tracy. Why even, like, did you see the play? Why even do that? Like, you're a smaller running back and you're trying to truck a guy in front of you. Just, you don't need to put your shoulder into a guy. Just go down. Just go down. It was not required. So anyway, Cam Scatterbo is going to go through the roof for sure, man. I'm really looking forward to it.
And I think he will definitely be a hot topic on tomorrow night's Supercoach trade-in and trade-out show. We will be running that one back again tomorrow night, Wednesday night, at same time as always, 7:30. So make sure on Supercoach, if you're looking for trade advice for week 4, make sure to jump in on that one. The final injury updates that we really have here, Matt, before we get into the Detroit and Baltimore recap. Jane Daniels and Brock Purdy. Jane Daniels still day-to-day, not a lock for week 4, but it is trending in that direction. And Brock Purdy, it's looking like he will play in week 4. So no more Mac Jones, unfortunately, as saucy as Mac Attack is.
Mac Jones got injured in that game too. So I don't think he's even healthy, even if Purdy wasn't ready to go. I think he had a PCL strain or some shit like that. So I think he's in doubt, even if Purdy was out. So yeah, incredible.
Yeah, sounds like they'll definitely need Purdy back on deck. I can't even think who their third string quarterback would be. It'd have to be somebody pretty rough. I can't even see it here. Oh, Curtis Rourke. Absolutely no idea. Looks like a rookie. So yeah, hopefully Brock Purdy. Yeah, hopefully for that whole team, Brock Purdy's back on deck and one to watch for Jaden Daniels. Xavier Worthy, he is also looking like playing in week 4, and the Chiefs, they just desperately need him. I'm sure we'll be touching on a couple of Chiefs receivers as we get in deeper. So we'll leave that one for here. And also, not an offensive player, but Nick Bosa. Unfortunately, the star edge rusher for the 49ers confirmed ACL tear, which is no good at all. But of course, things you hate to see, but we have to look at it from a fantasy lens. Without Nick Bosa, that 49ers defense takes a big hit, especially in that rushing defense, and also in rushing the passer. So yeah, one to watch with Nick Bosa gone. Could be an exploitable matchup against the 49ers. But that's really it for our injury updates for tonight. We will have more if there is more news that follows tomorrow that we'll be covering at the start of tomorrow night's show as per usual. But let's quickly get into the last game of the week rewind as we start looking into the waivers. So on this, Mav, like I mentioned, Detroit went into Baltimore and won the game 38-30. Jared Goff, he didn't really need to do too much. It was all that running attack for the Detroit side of the ball. David Montgomery went absolutely ballistic. 12 rushes for 151 yards. One of them was a 72-yard bomb rush. I'm not too sure if he got to the end zone from that rush alone. I think he got in there a couple plays after, but he had a big game. Jahmyr Gibbs, 22 carries for only 67 yards. The efficiency, it's not what we want to see, but against Baltimore, you can't expect too much. But he made up for it rather with 2 rushing touchdowns and also 5 receptions for 32 yards through the air. Amon-Ra, 7 for 77 and a touchdown. He was the only other person worthy of note for Detroit. Jamo and Sam Laporta were pretty ordinary. Didn't really give you too much in terms of fantasy lens. But looking at Baltimore, Lamar, three touchdowns thrown. Love to see that, 288 yards. Derrick Henry, 12 for 50 with a touchdown. I think he also fumbled in this game too. Yeah, fumbled and lost, which is just you don't expect it from the King. But Lamar, with his 3 touchdowns, added in 35 rushing yards on the ground. And Mark Andrews, the ghost of Mark Andrews, coming back to life, 6 for 91 and 2 scores. That was a lot of the game script because Ravens, they weren't really in front for a lot of this game. It was all Detroit taking command. And then Rashad Bateman got involved, 5 for 63. Disappointingly, Zay Flowers, 2 for 13 on this one. So he's had a bit of a fall from grace after his hot start from the first 2 weeks. But looking at this game as a whole, Mav, any real surprises here or things that are kind of you're looking as will probably stick as moving forward? Or it's just kind of, it's a week 3, high-scoring game. Lions came away with the win, not too much more to take away from it.
Well, again, the running back room of the Detroit Lions is showing that they can both sort of put up numbers and still, fantasy, they can still play together. They've combined for over 200 rushing yards together and 4 TDs. So look, that's not going to happen every week, but again, they're so good together that they can make fantasy scores worthwhile. If one of these players go down, then obviously one's a massive gets a massive boost. So that's always going to be a positive and a negative for obviously if you own one and not the other. But yeah, it was a pretty good game to watch. It was pretty solid all round play. Derrick Henry's actually got a fumbling problem at the moment. It's 3 this year, so it's a bit of a concern. I'd probably expect him not to have another fumble for the rest of the year. It looks like he's taking a toll on him mentally at the moment, and he's actually taking it pretty personally. So you never want to see an angry Derrick Henry. So he's going to come out, I reckon, and start really sort of dominating because he hasn't been that great this year, to be fair. Obviously a good week 1, but the next 2 weeks after that haven't been that great. So, and then you got Zay Flowers, man, who's obviously been, this is what he does. This is what he does. He's a very consistent player to have in NFL fantasy. He had a really good start to the year, and then he's very much capable of having 2 catches in a game, but bugger all yards. So that's always the risk with Zay Flowers, and that was the massive risk I had for Supercoach with him as well, was don't trade him in because he's capable of these games where he has minimal impact. So always a massive caution, red flag for me when that happens. But yeah, Mark Andrews was actually, he was a drop candidate in some leagues last year. Last week, sorry. I was seeing in a few leagues he was getting dropped and released to the waiver wire for better options at the time. And again, he's had a start to the year. He's had 1 point, I think, in both games, 1 catch in both games even. And then today he comes out and has a 6 for 91 and 2 tutties. So, yeah, it's hard to read, isn't it?
Very hard to pick the old game of fantasy football. And with Mark Andrews, it looks like Isaiah Likely is also set to return this upcoming week in week 4. But yeah, it's going to be a bit of a dumpster fire, I think, in that passing room. Probably a good opportunity to sell high on Mark Andrews if you can. If there is managers out there that see that big game that he's put up in prime time and are looking to cash in. But yeah, all in all, a bit strange. Jamison Williams, for you, Mav, I know heading into this year, I was super high on Jamison Williams, and the new offensive coordinator, I think it's John Morton, was talking about Jamison Williams is going to break out, which we thought we saw last year. So bit of false hope coming in. He's only had one decent game last week, and I think he only had like 3 catches or something. He caught a big bomb touchdown, which kind of made it all together. But today, 2 for 43, only 3 targets. Again, it was all the rushing attack doing the work, but it's just a bit too inconsistent. But Jamison Williams for you, rest of season, is he someone that you're looking to target, or you just kind of want to stick to Amon-Ra, Gibbs, and that's pretty much it?
I don't think I've ever owned Jamison Williams in fantasy. It's not a guy that I usually target. I've always had concerns on well, not so much his ability, but I suppose they've got such a loaded offense where you just never know who, like, Amon-Ra, Gibbs, and you suppose Monty's going to get a lot of work, right? Laporta at times, sure. And then you have Jamison Williams that pops up here and there. Some weeks he's been very good, some weeks he's been very shit. So it's just too inconsistent for me to ever really target Jamison Williams. And again, he's had 5 targets in week 1, 4 in week 2, and 3 in week 3. So, yeah, it's just nothing. It's just not a player that I ever target, man. It's just not. He's sure he's got a high upside in any given week. There's no consistency. There's no consistency with him. So he's real boom or bust, and unfortunately, that's just how he's been for the majority of his career, boom or bust.
Yeah, it's really if you're in a matchup and you're a heavy underdog, he's the type of player that you want in there just to shoot for upside. But yeah, it's a bit too inconsistent. We'll have to see how the next couple of weeks pan out. Looking at it, Detroit Cleveland is versing Detroit at Detroit next week. So that's going to be a tough one. But then again, Cleveland away from home, their defense isn't as strong as what it has been. And then for Baltimore, they take on Kansas City at Arrowhead. So that'll be a good one. We'll have to see what Derrick Henry does there. Very tough run defense. But again, he's got that chip on his shoulder, like you were saying, and angry. Derrick Henry is not someone that you want to be seeing in front of. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But that wraps up week 3 with Detroit at Baltimore. Let's move on to the waiver wire. Awesome. So as we know, waivers for a lot of leagues run tomorrow afternoon here in Australia. I've actually got a few that ran tonight, which I just feel like I've been a bit jibbed because I'd completely forgotten that they ran tonight. But anyhow, luckily those teams aren't doing too bad. But this week, with our week 4 targets, there will be a couple of same names that we covered off last week because in terms of roster percentages, they're still very heavily out there and available. We try and look at guys that are under 50% owned on rosters. We do have one, I think, in this list that we'll be covering that is at that 60%, but it's more so just a PSA. If he's out there, make sure you run and pick him up. But we will start from the top, from the quarterback position. With this one here, Mav, I know we'll probably look at a super flex lens to begin with because those guys, when it comes to quarterbacks, they're probably going to be struggling a lot more. But looking at this list here, who have you got as your number 1 option for week 4?
Well, I mean, Jake Browning's obviously one guy that is still available in a lot of leagues. Still, again, we're looking at a superflex lens. He had a negative game this week, and looked pretty poor, might I add. Next week, they've actually got the Broncos, another tough matchup in prime time. So he's every chance he could struggle. But again, he's got a loaded offense, right? He's got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown. Not many players or QBs around the league have that sort of, I suppose, those weapons around him. So again, he would be one, if you're QB needy, sure, you can grab him. I'd probably bench him this week personally and then hold him for week 5 onwards. Look, I wouldn't be shocked if they make a trade at some point for a backup QB. But again, their season looks like it's almost done for the year anyway. So They might just stick it fat, and just ride the wave. But Jake Browning's definitely one that I would target. Another one would be Carson Wentz. Would be another one. Again, he's probably more of a rental. Well, is he? Who would know, I suppose. But if Carson Wentz keeps winning games and McCarthy isn't healthy, then do they keep rolling with Carson Wentz? It hasn't been great for McCarthy. So another one would be Carson Wentz, and again, it'd be if you're QB needy and you need a score out of him this week, then yep, sure. Again, an offense with I think Addison's back this week, so Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson is a pretty damn good offense to have for Carson Wentz to be around. So again, we're not expecting him to be the QB1 by any stretch, but if he has a game of 200 yards, 250 yards, somewhere around there, and a few 2 to 3 touchdowns, and that's startable. So yeah, they would probably be my two, but Carson Wentz I'd be leaning on more than I would Jake Browning personally.
And just to touch on that, Mav, I think great point that you brought up. The offenses, the piece they have around them are just way too good for these guys to really fail. I mean, when Jake Browning came in week 2 against Jacksonville, he threw 3 picks, but he still ended on 20 fantasy points for the week, which is serviceable if you caught in a pinch. And that's purely because, Jamar Chase and those boys lifting him up. Same thing for Carson Wentz, with their combo. And yeah, good point on Jordan Addison. Forgot to mention that at the start of the show. He is back for week 4, so they're definitely going to have a bit of a boost there. The other couple that I will just throw in here, Marcus Mariota. If this is contingent, of course, if Jaden Daniels is ruled out, but if you do have him currently, I'd be looking just to hold on and see what the final news is on Jaden Daniels. Purely just looking at it, yeah, he put up 20 fantasy points. He had touchdown through the air, didn't throw a pick, 200 passing yards, and his rushing attack as well, 6 for 40, and also another touchdown. So, I mean, Marcus Mariota, he can put up fantasy points. It looks ugly, but it is an option out there if you are strapped.
Absolutely. Not a bad call. Again, it's a rental. It's probably a 1 week rental if he does come out and start. Again, it heavily hinges on the health of Jaden Daniels. Obviously, he's never going to start above him, so don't even think about that. But again, you'd probably want more information first on Jaden Daniels if he's playing or not before you put money on or a waiver priority on Mariota, because no point wasting it if he's not actually going to play. So I'd hold and maybe picking him up after if it's still unknown. I wouldn't put anything on him, and then wait till after waivers run, and if he's still there, maybe pick him up then. And it'll cost you nothing. So if he's available, but it's no point wasting any sort of priority or fab if we're not sure he's playing or not.
Great call.
Yeah, and that's just how I view it. Again, I can see on a list here we do have Matt Stafford and Geno Smith there. I suppose that's more for probably 1 QB leagues, but if Superflex leagues, that wouldn't be available on waivers. But 1 QB league, sure. Again, check the matchup just to make sure they've got a good matchup. Otherwise, probably no point. But if they're available, again, we're talking about 2 guys there that maybe more Matt Stafford. Anyway, he's got a pretty good offense around him. And Geno Smith are obviously capable of big games at any point in his career. So, if that's probably more suited for 1 QB leagues personally. If you have someone like a Dak Prescott that you're not confident in, or I suppose Trevor Lawrence, if you're not confident in him, there's obviously other things there to consider. But that's how I view it.
Yeah, great call on Geno and Stafford. Definitely more so for a 1 quarterback format. We will probably be touching on one of those names in our stream of the weeks later on, but that's really it for the quarterback position. Looking at running backs, and the first guy here, I will just preface, he is at 60%, but this is just if he is out there in leagues, oh God, you've got to really, maybe even be willing to unload the clip. I'll get your thoughts on that, Mav. But Trey Benson, he's currently at 60%. Of course, with the James Conner news, he is out. He's done for the year. It will be Trey Benson's backfield for the most part. I will also just kind of throw in here Amari DiMarcado as well, who is also the backup for Cardinals to try and throw out there. But Trey Benson for you, Mav, if by any chance that he's available in any of your leagues, how much are you willing to unload? Like what % of your fab do you think it's worth?
Look, it depends how needy you are on running back. But make 75% easily. This guy was in. I did a Patreon article 2 weeks ago, week 1, and he was a top ad at the position. He was a premium handcuff, and pretty much with asterisk saying if anything happens with James Conner, this guy could be a league winner, right? Or a league saver, depending on how your team looks. He's going to be inserted into nearly every starting lineup that I've got. I've got Trey Benson in about 4 leagues. I've tried to target him everywhere in drafts because I knew if anything happened to James Conner, this guy could be anything. Seriously. So I would be unloading big time at Trey Benson if available. Because mate, the world is his oyster. Seriously, it is. He looked pretty good when he had to fill in for Connor in the second half of the game. So yeah, with more touches coming into week 4, oh god, we're talking about a 23-year-old that could truly break out. So yeah, he was probably the number 1 premium handcuff in the league in the drafts, and now he's got top 10 upside, easy.
Yeah, he does. He'll get all the work. Do you have any interest in Amari DiMarcado, Mav? I know he had a little bit of run, 11% snaps. I think he did have a fumble. I'll have to go back and watch this game, but yeah, it wasn't anything too hot. But next man up mentality. Trey Benson, he's probably slotted for at least 70%, but the rest has to go to somewhere else. Are you just not worried about that rest? You'd rather just stick with Benson and everything else will do its thing.
Yeah, not really. I'd have to see it to believe it, but Trey Benson's got true bell cow work here. He does. So yeah, if he's available in any league, go hard. You have to go hard.
Yeah, unload that clip, open up that wallet, and moving on to the next couple of guys here. I'll loop them in together. Kareem Hunt, he's at 42%. He does look like the lead back for Kansas City, or at least he has the goal line opportunities as well. He did get that score up against the Giants this week. And Kenneth Gainwell also got a touchdown this week for the Steelers. He's been splitting a little bit with Jaylen Warren. These two guys here, Mav, Kareem Hunt, Kenneth Gainwell, are they worth anything to you if you're RB needy? And if so, which one are you looking to get?
I'd be targeting Kareem Hunt, to be honest with you, if I had to pick. Had a touchdown on the weekend, looked pretty good. Had about 40-odd yards, probably about 4 yards a carry, I think it was, top of my head. So that's pretty good. Isaiah Pacheco looks like he is just losing touches by the week, and Kareem Hunts are going up. So again, if you're RB needy and you need somebody to probably sit him on your bench and just sit him there and see how that workload goes, and he's there for compensation or any sort of fill-ins if required for next week. Because again, in the NFL, anything can happen with running backs. Anything can happen. So yes, I would be stashing him on the bench for sure over someone like Kenny Gainwell. And yeah, absolutely would be running with that. Kenneth Gainwell, not really too exciting. I don't know why he's involved in the offense. It should be Jaylen Warren and Caleb Johnson. So I think Kenny Gainwell, he's got a stable role at the moment, but I think it will decline as the year goes along. They'll get Caleb Johnson more involved as the coming weeks come. But yeah, no interest in Kenny Gainwell, to be fair, none.
And a couple more exciting rookie guys that we have here next. Cole Monongai, running back for the Chicago Bears. He's at 23%, currently roster owned. And Ollie Gordon is at 34%, running back for the Miami Dolphins. He got a touchdown over the weekend. Out of these two guys here, Mav, I know looking at it, I think Swift, I think I heard whispers he was dealing with a little bit of an injury as well. So it's one to watch. What did he put up? 13 for 33 on the ground, and then 3 for 45 through the air. So not too much there. Salvage his day with the receiving, but again, the efficiency on the ground looks horrid. And also, I was listening to something earlier today, and the Bears' offensive line have been giving him like 2 to 3 yards pre-contact before he gets hit. But then as soon as he gets hit, his efficiency just drops through the roof. So just imagine if they had someone capable, or more capable rather than DeAndre Swift. Could Cole Monongai be that option for you there, Mav, if you are looking for running back options?
No, I think they stick with Swift. I don't know if Roschon Johnson has been healthy or not. I don't know if he was active on the weekend or not. Hasn't been playing the first 2 weeks, but I'm not sure what his status was coming into week 3. He might have not played at all. So I suppose when Roshan gets healthy, maybe he comes into it as a backup role and possibly even eating into DeAndre Swift's work. But Manungai, not really. I mean, like he had 6 carries for 16 yards on the weekend, but efficiency wise, it wasn't much better than Swift. So I'm not too concerned there. So I would definitely put all my eggs in the Ollie Gordon bucket if I'm comparing the two. Ollie Gordon looked really good with his touches he got on Friday's game. He looked actually sort of better than A-Chan at times, but A-Chan still pretty good. But Ollie Gordon should really get the goal line carries. Should every single time should be in the goal line. Should be getting all the carries. He's a bigger back. He's more of a thumper down the middle of the offensive line. He would be the guy that I'd be targeting over Monongai. Again, we're not talking about large amounts of fab or waiver priority between these two players, but Ollie Gordon, if anything ever happens to A-Chain, again, he's probably another premium handcuff in the league. He could see 15 plus carries and do really well with that workload because once he gets the ball, he does move pretty well and has a big solid back. So if I'm targeting one of the two, I'd be looking at Ollie Gordon.
And it looks like Jalen Wright is well and truly out of the picture. He was healthy, was slated to make his start, but didn't get any snaps in that game against the Bills. So it definitely looks like it's Ollie Gordon and Devon Achane. Quickly on this one here, Mav, Chris Rodriguez and Jeremy McNichols for the Washington Commanders. We did see that game against the Raiders was more so of a split. Bill Krosky-Merritt did get the goal line, but still well split. I think Chris Rodriguez started out the game in this one and saw a majority of the snaps for the most part. McNichols on turn, I think he only had 4 carries, but he had that big 60-yard touchdown where he broke free from like 5 tackles. In this one here, are you still thinking Bill Krosky-Merritt is the main guy to have, or are you willing to take a stab at either Rodriguez or McNichols?
Mate, this is probably the murkiest situation to really sort of work out. I mean, Bill sort of had the goal line carry, but he had 8 carries for the game. So in a plus matchup where they were winning for the majority of the game, where running backs towards the end of the game start to get worked out. It was Chris Rodriguez. It was Matt Mariota was taking a few carries. Jeremy Nichols was looking okay. Deebo Samuel saw 3 or 4 carries. I think it was top of my head. So it's a bit of a split, really. So again, if you're looking at a deeper option here, then one of these running backs that are available, you could target for less than $5 or something like that, fab wise, and just hope that Bill's not it, and the other one's not. Who would you pick? You'd probably pick Rodriguez. He gets the most work, but to pick one. There's not really a go-to, is there?
Yeah, it's gross. There's no winner in that Commanders backfield. As much as we'd like it to be Bill, still there's just everything's up in the air. But the last guy that we have for running backs, purely based on the injury that happened to Najee Harris for the LA Chargers, Hussein Haskins, he's at 0% owned. I expect that to change after waivers run tomorrow. Any interest in Haskins behind Omarion Hampton, Mav, for the Chargers, or it's just Hampton for you?
I mean, if you've got Hampton, if you've got a spot, sure. Like you got the handcuff, just in case. But she obviously done the Achilles. Big loss. So Hampton should see again probably potential bell cow here as well in the offense. Haskins might see 3rd down work or anything like that. But again, if you're Hampton only getting a free spot, maybe stash him. Outside of that, I wouldn't be targeting him there's no real point.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for him, you must be pretty dismal in the running back position. But moving on to wide receiver, a guy that we did mention last week is I think he might have been your top waiver wire ad, Mav, for week 3. Alec Ayomana, wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans. He did score again this week, and he's still looking like the main target over Calvin Ridley. He's looking like the wide receiver 1. He had 4 for 38 and a touchdown on 5 targets. So not too much there, but Cam Ward couldn't really do too much in this game with these guys getting absolutely blown out against the Colts. It really put him in a tough spot. Alec Ayomana, 50%. Mav, again, how much are you looking to unload if he is still out there and you are strapped for cash?
Is he number 1? You reckon?
In the whole week out of all positions?
No, is he the number one, like, in terms of on the team for the Titans, like, the number one option, like, outside of, like, as a receiver? Like, is he the wide receiver one on the Titans is the real question. Um,
Mm,
he'd be
I mean,
borderline, wouldn't he?
yeah, Ridley doesn't look like he has it anymore. And, 1 for 7. Sure, you can put a little bit of that on Cam Ward. I'll have to go back and watch the tape, but I mean, the door's wide open for Alec.
Absolutely. So, again, if he's available in your leagues and, again, you're wide receiver needy and you want some depth there, you're worried about guys like Vlad McConkey or anything like that you own, um, or DK Metcalf or anything like that you own, and you need a bit more depth or firepower potentially, then yeah, man, I'd be targeting A-Man every day of the week. He looks pretty good. Look, would I be happy and comfortable in starting him in week 4? Probably not. Again, probably need to see more sample size before I really launch in. Because again, if he's touchdown dependent, then that's not really a good idea either. So again, I'd be unloading, probably 10%, 15% of fab, worst case. If you are receiver needy, if you don't need him, there's probably no big real need to go after him. But again, people will probably go higher. They'll probably go 20% if they're more needy. So I don't think it's worth breaking the bank over personally, but it'd be a top ad position.
Love it. And moving on, this next guy, absolute the highlight of week 3. I know I absolutely had him nowhere, and I can't imagine too many people did. But Trey Tucker put up 8 for 145 and 3 scores. He was Geno Smith's main man against the Commanders. Any interest in Trey Tucker moving forward, Mav, or is that purely just you don't want to chase last week's points, or do you think it's worth throwing a few bucks on Trey Tucker as we head into week 4?
I think there's a world where you can actually do it, man. I seriously do. He's currently number one trending player on Sleeper at the moment. Week 1 he was okay. Don't get me wrong. Again, touchdown dependent, but sure. And then obviously in week 3 he goes big, but he had 8 targets in week 2. Again, not much usage in terms of or production with those targets, but 8 targets in week 2, 9 targets in week 3. He'd be my second one I'd add as a priority ad. If A-Man isn't available, I would go after Trey Tucker. He's only 24 years old, right? So it's not like he's young. It's not like he's old or declining or anything like that. This is a kid that's trying to make a name for himself, I suppose. And again, their receiving room is not that very good. You got Jacoby Myers, who's okay. Ashton Genty, obviously being the running back, is struggling at the moment. Seeing plenty of volume and struggling. And same with Brock Bowers, obviously playing through injury. Hasn't been seeing a lot of production. But guys like Deontay Thornton hasn't been lighting the world on fire. Jack Besh hasn't been involved in the game at all. So, yeah, man, I would say he's got a connection with Geno, and Geno likes to use him. So, I'd be looking at unloading as well if you're wide receiver needy, and that's something that you'd want. Again, he's not going to probably drop a 36-point game again where he has 3 touchdowns in a game. Don't get me wrong, but again, like the usage has been there, man. It has been.
Yeah, and the upside is well and truly there. The one thing that sticks out to me is just his snap percentage. I mean, that's the key thing for guys to get fantasy production. It's to be on the field, step one, and from week 1, 90% plus snap percentage in each game. So he definitely has a solidified role there. I'm with you, Mav. I think I'd be looking to spend a little bit of cash. On the next 2, I'll loop them in together because we do have a question. And guys, thanks heaps for throwing in questions here. We will get to most of them at the back end of tonight's show, but I will just throw this one up here. Matt Carmody. Hey guys, would you rather target Horton or Burden off waivers? 14 team, half PPR. And with this one, Mav, they are the next 2 names on our list. Torrey Horton, he's at 8% roster owned, so still very low there for the Seattle Seahawks. And Luther Burden, he's at 25%. He did have that big game. I think he only had 3 catches for 100-odd yards and a touchdown for the Bears. Out of Horton and Burden, which one are you more interested in as we look into week 4?
Well, Horton's getting a bit more special teams work on top of what he's doing on the offensive end. I mean, we're seeing he played probably about, I think it was 50% or maybe just under 50% of snaps on the weekend. And obviously had that big touchdown pass as well, which would obviously boost his numbers up a little bit. But again, he hasn't really been too exciting. But, 10 points in week 2, and 16 points in week 3. I suppose on favourable matchups, to be fair. New Orleans obviously being the most favourable matchup. So, that's positive. That's positive. keep in mind he did have that, that special teams touchdown as well, which gives him a bit of a boost in score. It's rare that he's going to be able to score on special teams, but he's getting special teams touches, man. He is, and there's been a lot more returns this season. The dynamic kickoff has actually been a positive. So if you're looking for receiving yards, if you're in leagues that have special teams points with returning yards or anything like that, then yeah, sure, man, he'd be the priority ad over a guy like Luther Burden. Luther Burden, again, is in a bit of a stacked room at the moment with DJ Moore, Dunze, I guess Loveland, Swift. There's options going around. I suppose Caleb's been all right. He's been the QB2 on the year, but again, based off a big game on the weekend against Dallas, that boosted his numbers. But Luther Burden, again, will be in and out of the offense all year long unless they trade DJ Moore, which, again, could be a possibility at some point because there is some rumors going around that he might get traded towards the deadline. But, yes, if I had to pick, I would be picking Horton. I'd be picking him.
Yeah, I'm with you there on that one. And purely, pretty much what you summed up, purely because looking at it, Torrey Horton, it's JSN, Cooper Kupp, and him. There's really nobody else in that receiving attack. So he's got to beat out Cooper Kupp, and he'll slide in there to the wide receiver 2 spot. But looking at the Chicago offense, yeah, like you mentioned, Dunze, DJ Moore, Colson Loveland, Cole Kmet, and then Luther Burden kind of slots in there. But again, DJ Moore could be a little stash potentially for Luther Burden if you've got it's a deeper league and you do have some spare roster spots. Could be an option, but yeah, Torrey Horton for the both of us are those ones. And the last wide receiver that I will just bring up, little combo action for the Dallas Cowboys because CD has been ruled out and could miss the next couple of weeks. Jalen Tolbert is at 2%. Kevontae Turpin is at 5%. Mav, you're our Cowboys man here. Out of these two, which one are you looking to pick up, if any?
I prefer Tolbert personally. Turpin's got the bigger top speed, ball in hand. Obviously, he's obviously quite good. He's got the ball in hand, but if we're talking targets and genuine production, Tolbert would be the better option. But who's to say? I mean, we both see a lot of the time on the field now that CD's not there, trying to be a bit more dynamic and everything like that. Maybe more on balls. So Turpin might be the play. But again, I think more for PPR leagues, you'd probably be looking at Tolbert. But again, not worth a hell of a lot on the wire. Probably a few dollars would probably get it done. Not much.
Yeah, to get you out of a pinch, and like you mentioned earlier, these guys are rentals, so don't look at dropping the bank on these guys because CD, he'll be coming back in a few weeks' time. But yeah, I'm with you on the Tolbert play. Tight ends, the last position of the waiver wire for tonight. There's a couple of intriguing names here. From the top, Hunter Henry, 41% ownership, had an absolute monster for the Patriots. 8 catches, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns. Of course, that's pardon me, that's not going to happen every week. And as Stephon Diggs gets healthier and his snap count increases, he'll probably look to start getting a bit more of that share. Stephon Diggs himself, he's only at 53% snap share. He's been kind of around that the starting 3 weeks. So looking at that, I'm kind of thinking he's not fully healthy. They're slowly ramping him up. So with that, the more ramp up for Diggs, Hunter Henry might come down. But I mean, hey, if you're in a pinch, Hunter Henry has got Carolina this week, could really get you out of trouble. But a couple of names here, Mav, that I'll throw to you just to get your thoughts on. All 2 of these guys here based on injury. Kate Otten, he's at 12%. With that Mike Evans injury, it looks like he could see a lot more of the targets for Tampa Bay. And also Cole Kmet, he's at 8% for the Chicago Bears. Loveland is also dealing with an injury, so he might miss week 4. Out of Kate Otten, Cole Kmet, which one are you leaning towards for week 4?
Probably Kate Otten. Again, when did Mike Evans get injured? Was it late in the game?
I feel like it might have been halfway. I know he had a touchdown in the second quarter, I think it was. But looking at it here, he played, a bit later, he played 72% of snaps, so probably third quarter.
Yeah, okay. So, in that quarter, and I suppose they probably, there's a pretty tight game, but Kate Otten went the game without a target in week 3 against the Jets. So they've got Philly coming up this week, and it all depends on how long Mike Evans is actually out for. Don't get me wrong. If Mike Evans is out for a while, Kate Otten is actually a really good play for the next 4 or 5 weeks. we saw what he was last year when Mike Evans went out. K-Dotton actually turned up. There was a 3-week period where he went 17, 20, 29, and 21. So he will get the Mike Evans touches if he does miss any time. But they do have Ekbuka, and I think Godwin is not far away either. So it's a bit of a different offense compared to last season. I mean, Ekbuka obviously will get a massive uptick in usage, but K-Dotton should get the Mike Evans touches. Should be probably the first read in the end zone too if they're passing the ball. Big reliable tight end. Usually does. He's 6'5", 250 pounds, so he would get an uptick there because again Baker likes to use his bigger backs or bigger receivers through the red zone unless it's a long ball in one-on-one coverage. So yeah, definitely would be K-Dotton if Mike Evans misses any time or extended time as such. But definitely I would be looking at Hunter Henry as a priority add if he's available. I think he had 10 targets in this game on the weekend and 9 in week 1. So usage is there. Usage is definitely there. So I think he's rostered in 41% of leagues at the moment. That's a 9% increase over the last day. So if you're running waivers and he's available, yeah, definitely, because he's, as I said, he's got 19 targets or 22 targets for the year so far in 3 weeks. So plenty of action there. I'm not too worried about Stephon Diggs or anything like that, but definitely would be a priority at that position.
And the final two, if you are in deeper leagues or tight end greedy leagues with other managers, Mason Taylor, he's currently at 11%. He was a tight end for the New York Jets. I'll just throw it out there unless you're scratching your head thinking who was Mason Taylor. 6 targets in week 3. He is slowly ramping up from an injury that he dealt with throughout the preseason. So that's also one to watch out for. In New York, it's Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, and potentially Mason Taylor. That's really the offense when Justin Fields gets back on deck. So one to watch out for in that. And the final waiver wire in the tight end position, Oronde Gadsden, tight end for the Chargers. He's a rookie. It was his debut against the Broncos over the week, yesterday rather, and he had 7 targets. Only saw 26% of the snaps, so one to kind of watch out for. But very nice usage coming at the gates. They did need to pass in the back end of that game as well, so it was a little bit inflated due to the game script. But there was a bit of hype and buzz leading into camp around Oronde Gadsden. But again, murky situation. There's so many mouths to feed there in LA, but again, could be a nice little piece to pick up if you are strapped. But Mav, before we get to a quick drop candidates, Mason Taylor or Gadsden for you?
Mason Taylor would be the guy. Again, the tight end room at the Chargers is pretty not loaded as such, but it's competitive. Disley, Conklin, and Gadsden obviously in the house. I think that he saw a bit of work because had Pat Satan and Riley Moss out there for Denver, so try and keep the ball away from these guys is probably the play. And then obviously Gadsden would be popping up for an option. So I wouldn't look into it too much. I need to see more data and sample size before I really sort of go into the likes of Gadsden. But Mason Taylor in a deeper format would be the guy that I would be targeting if desperate.
Love it. And so that will conclude our waiver wires for the segment. We will just quickly run through a couple of drop candidates. I've seen these guys pop up in the Twitter sphere of people questioning to see if they drop them or not. So I'll throw it to you, Mav, just to see what you think on each person. I'll just speed through them. Evan Engram, are you looking to drop him?
Yeah.
Isaiah Pacheco?
Hold.
Jaden Higgins. With Christian Kirk, he did come back this week. I think he saw like 6 or so targets. Higgins didn't really get much work at all. How are you feeling about the rookie?
Gone.
Yeah. Christian Kirk, 8 targets as well, only 67% of the snaps. So yeah, he could be a nice little pickup for you this week. Darnell Mooney for the Atlanta Falcons.
Hold.
And last but not least, Marvin Mims for the Denver Broncos. Troy Franklin was the hotness last week, coming off his big score. He didn't do too much in week 3, but Marvin Mims, Mav, how's he looking?
Drop.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Big drop on Marvin Mims. There are drop candidates. Looking at streaming options for this upcoming week. If you are strapped for the quarterback, this is predominantly going to be for 1 quarterback leagues. And I will actually just throw this up because we did have a comment from Troy, which goes hand in hand. What's up, guys? Should I pick up Gino and start him over Dak this week? Thanks for the comments, Troy. Our streaming option for the week that we have here is Geno Smith. He is up against Chicago Bears, and we've seen what the Bears have done in their passing attack. They've just been leaking points, absolutely leaking points. And it should have continued more so last week, but as soon as CD went down, they got kind of bailed out. But Geno Smith against Chicago, 3 touchdowns last week. He's probably the number one option, and I would start him over Dak if you did have that option. Any other quarterbacks from you, Mav, that you can think as a top streaming option, or is Geno Smith just number one?
Geno Smith would be a good play, and I would bench Dak this week against the Packers defense, who have been looking really sharp as well. Without CD Lamb too, makes it a bit harder. So I would definitely do that. Dak, I don't think would be a good play this week. So if possible, definitely bench him. I'd actually bench him with Danny Dimes as well. To be honest with you, if possible, 1 QB leagues or 2 big QB leagues, I would roll with Danny Dimes over him. But Danny Dimes does have the Rams, who are not too bad as well. So, but again, I'd prefer playing the Rams over the Packers at the moment. So, yep, definitely
for sure. And tight end Hunter Henry, he was our number one option in tight ends. He is taking on Carolina, and Carolina's passing attack, especially towards the tight end, has been a little favorable. I would be wary. I know JC Horn, he won't be covering Hunter Henry, but he's been a bit of a lockdown. He absolutely put the work on Drake London in week 3. But Hunter Henry as a tight end. Any other honorable mentions from you, Mav, in this position? Just looking at it, Mason Taylor takes on Miami Dolphins. We've seen them leak up points, and Kate Otten is versing the Eagles.
I've got a honorable mention. Brenton Strange.
Who are they versus? The 49ers.
Yeah, so depleted defense. They're getting lost Nick Bosa. They're not really a lockdown defense by any stretch. And to be honest with you, Brenton Strange has been seeing. He saw 7 targets last week. Again, depends on what Travis Hunter's going to be doing defensively. But again, a big opportunity there for more targets in week 4.
Awesome. And for defense and special teams, I'll just throw this one out and we'll head on to a couple of Q&As that we've had in the comments here. Thanks, everyone, for sticking around until we get to these. One that stuck out to a sore thumb for me is just the Houston Texans. I know that you might have some trouble in some leagues finding them, but Houston Texans against Tennessee Titans, rookie Cam Ward hasn't looked all that great, and the Texans are truly relying on their defense to win games. And at home as well, coming off 0-3 start, I think they'll come out absolutely firing, and Cam Ward could get some treatment in week 4. So that would be the defense special teams streaming option there. Moving on to the comments, we'll get through all of these before we sign things out. A guy Deadly here at the top. Lost 2 matchups out of my 13 leagues. One was in the Creators Cup to Josh. Unlucky. That one has to sting. And the other was in Dynasty to Mull. Cop that, Deadly. Absolutely cop that. Unlucky with that one, mate. But in brighter days, have Shadaboo in 5 leagues. I mean, he's going to be an absolute stud. He could really make a name for himself this year. Yeah. From where you're drafting him, I think he was even being drafted behind Tyler and Tracy in like the 10th, 11th round. So having him, that's just a lottery ticket on your bench that you had sitting there for a couple of weeks, and it's time to cash in. So absolutely massive. I'll throw this one to you here, Mav, from Brandon. Thanks heaps for the comment, Brandon. I got offered Nico Collins and Trey Benson for Amon-Ra. Should I take it? Again, I'll set you up here for this one, Mav. There's a lot of different variables. We need to look at the league format. Is it PPR? Are you strapped in the running back position? But say everything is all kind of sweet. Let's say you probably need a little bit of running back help. Say you was the James Conner manager. Are you taking Nico and Benson for Amon-Ra?
Again, context is key in this situation, right? So, look, I think Nico Collins and Trey Benson are probably 2 starters. You can start Trey Benson. If you've got better option than Trey Benson, then obviously he'd be a bench piece. You're actually trading Amon-Ra for Nico Collins technically, and hoping that Trey Benson maybe is even better than maybe a Kyron Williams if he's your RB2 or something like that. Like it's all depending on who you got in your flex, obviously. If you're desperate at running back and you need an option, absolutely I'd be doing that. Because Nico Collins he's probably a step down on Amon-Ra. CJ Stroud's been pretty crap for the most part, to be honest. But again, he's the one option, and he was pretty good this week. And then Trey Benson again. I'm really high on Trey Benson, and anything could be possible for him. So yeah, we probably need a bit more context to be fair, but definitely would if you need to, definitely would.
Yeah, I think it's not a bad trade. Nico should come good as the season gets further on as well, hopefully. Matrix, our guy here, you drinking a cup of tea? Damo, I sure am, mate. What is it? Australian afternoon. That's my tea of choice. A little bit of a croaky throat, so that's getting me through. Shout out to all the tea drinkers out there. Charles Zammit, love to see his comments in the chat. He's very active. Thanks heaps, Charles, for this one. Hello, legends. Great to join in. I love to know what you think of Jonathan Taylor. Is he the real deal or a flash in the pan? For reference, Mav had Jonathan Taylor against me in our content creators matchup this week, and yeah, he beat me by 46 points. JT, he's definitely the real deal, but how do you feel about
JT score?
31.3. So that he was pretty much the difference.
I could have benched him then. Didn't matter. Not required. Yeah, man, he is the real deal. He's the real deal. It's crazy when you see like they've probably got the best offensive line of football at the moment, and probably have for the last year probably as well, if you want to extend it out. So it's amazing to see, and I don't want to glaze Danny Dimes because I don't think he's that good. But when you've got a capable passer under a solid offensive line, so they can at least open up the box, and that's what Anthony Richardson couldn't do last year, is open up the box, and they were just stacking the box, and Jonathan Taylor couldn't run. He had nowhere to go. But when you open up the box and Jonathan Taylor has a freedom just to pick through holes, absolutely, he's the real deal. He's never really been a flash in the pan of a player. Sure, he's been, I suppose, he's got injury risks, and that's always been his biggest concern. He's been injury prone over his career, but he could finish as the RB1 this year if everything keeps going and remains the same. He's RB1 now. It's not really a big shout, but he's got massive upside in any given week just due to this offensive line being so solid.
Yeah, and with it, things that we love to see from running backs, he's starting to see more usage or regular usage in that receiving game too. I mean, last year, 14 games, he only had 31 targets, 18 receptions. In this one here, I mean, looking at we're through 3 weeks, he's almost at half that, 8 receptions already compared to 18 for the full year last year. So things we absolutely love to see, and he could well and truly have 15 touchdowns this year, and that would just, he is the real deal there. Hopefully Danny Dimes doesn't take any more goal line touches away from him. Throwing it in quickly here from Punter before we sign things out. How long before teams make any meaningful trades? Who do you think gets moved? So this is probably looking at an NFL lens, Mav, not more so of a fantasy. I'm not sure where the trade line actually comes into effect in the NFL, but there definitely will be teams looking to get moved. Mav, shout DJ Moore for the Chicago Bears. He just looks like the odd guy out. I mean, getting touches in the backfield, not really getting much usage in the passing game or in the receiving game rather. Yeah, there's definitely going to be some moves. I mean,
I'd love to see DJ Moore go to Buffalo. To be honest, it'd be a good fit there.
I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, it'd be a massive upgrade. They get a true wide receiver one, fantastic route runner, and it'd be a massive upgrade over Shakir, who's fine, but he's not number one. And look, I mean, Najee Harris was one for mine all year. I thought would get moved on at some point. Unfortunately, he's got injured. I think that the Chiefs probably need a running back. So look to see what they do in the deadline or coming up. I don't know how many RBs will be available for him, but they would be one I'd be looking at. The Chiefs definitely need an upgrade there. There's not much happening there apart from, well, Kareem Hunt's really their number one at the moment. So yeah, he'd be that'd be one to watch. And then that side of that, there's not much else at the moment. You have to wait for more weeks to come out. Injuries happen and stuff like that. So teams will make some correction trades or trades based off needs as well. So I mean, Packers have always needed a wide receiver, so I'd be looking, if I was them, I'd be trying to get an alpha number 1, 2 for available, but yeah, they're hard to get.
Yeah, and with that, the trade deadline does hit this year on the 4th of November. So what's that? That's probably week 8 kind of area. So we'll probably start to see in those final 2 weeks, we'll start seeing some trades come through once teams have more of an idea on how they're looking for rest of season. And quickly with Jaden, how much fab would you drop on Trey Benson? Mav, you mentioned it, 75% of what you had left if you needed to, or if you're running back needy, would you just unload the clip?
Well, if you're running back needy, then definitely unload the clip. Again, this guy's got top 10 potential in his position. Worst case, maybe top 15. So definitely would be looking to really unload. And if you don't unload, someone else will. So because someone else will be RB needy. Some teams out there won't be happy with an Ashton Genty, for example. There might be concerns with Ashton Genty. Brees Hall, obviously, as well. If they're in both of them, then obviously a massive concern. But there's teams out there that RBs aren't working at the moment for them, and guys like Javonte Williams out of nowhere has happened. So like James Conner owners would be concerned at the moment. Obviously, that's a big hole there that they're missing too. So definitely would be unloading the clip. Travion Henderson owners would be worried at the moment as well. Like you'd be drafting him as an RB2 and he's not been performing as an RB2, and we're asking when that's going to happen. So absolutely would be unloading if he's available, and if you're RB needy, 100%. It's gonna cost you for the rest of the year. You can always trade back and trade for bad along the way, try and get back in. But absolutely, I'd be dropping the house on Trey Benson.
There you go. If Benson's there, absolutely drop the house. Guys, before we head out, if you are liking what you're seeing and watching with us live here on YouTube, please give us a big thumbs up and also hit that bell and subscribe button to catch us when we go live moving forward. We absolutely love it. It's a free way to support the show. Big thumbs up if you are watching on YouTube. Goes a long way for us here at Inside NFL. And that'll wrap things up for our week 4 waiver wire show. Hopefully you guys get lucky with your waivers that are running tomorrow. I know after this, I'll be looking through all of my leagues and trying to put in my waiver claims. I know I've got a few too many this year, and it just takes, I need a good sit down and really go through it. But
a good hour to sit there and go through them.
It takes some time. I'll definitely learn my lesson for next year. But tomorrow night's show, we'll be out trade in and trade out for the week. Last week's show was an absolute banger. We had a heap of Q&A in the comments afterwards as well. So make sure to tune in for that one. And if you did miss last night's week 3 review, the link is in the description below as well. So again, all of our socials.
Tomorrow night, then. Sorry, just to interrupt. It's going to be a big one tomorrow night because we've had our first week of price rises in Supercoach. So it's going to be a big one. Do we use the trade boosts? Maybe. There's a lot to unpack, really. And also keep in mind, it's actually the first week. Week 4 is actually the first week of the NBL Cup. So if you check your matchups in the NBL Cup, you'll see if you've qualified for it. That'd be the week 1. It's a knockout period all the way throughout the year. So good luck to making it to the end. But again, knockout cup starts this week. So big week in Supercoach, I reckon.
Definitely tune in for tomorrow night at 7:30. We will be going through all of that. But guys, that'll do us here for tonight at the Inside NFL show. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the questions. And we will see you guys tomorrow night.
See you.